Money Talk. Welcome to our game week 2 predictions. I'm going to kick it off with Notts straight away. We play Salford. Salford struggled in their first game, losing 3-1 to Crewe. Notts, after watching the game, I feel like we should have really got more from the game. We had a really, really good first half, just a bit of a patchy second half. I'm going to go 2-1. That's what I said in the Pavers perspective yesterday. So I'm going to stick with that for Notts versus Salford. The second early kickoff then, Tranmere versus Shrewsbury. Both sides drawing the first game. Obviously Tranmere 1-1, Shrewsbury 0-0. I think it could potentially be another draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 again. Shrewsbury obviously recently relegated side, whose fans will obviously be looking for them to sort of regain promotion and have a strong season. But time's going to tell for Shrewsbury. So, yeah, 1-1. Moving on to Barrow versus MK Dons. I think MK Dons are sort of the headline team, aren't they, this season in League 2. They've made some phenomenal signings. They've had probably the best summer, potentially ever, in League 2. They've signed some real quality. But Barrow are no pushover. Chesterfield would have been going into their first game of the season against Barrow very confident. I know they've made some good signings too, and they're looking to be a lot stronger than where they were last season. And they only beat them 1-0. And I was speaking to a Chesterfield fan yesterday, and he was saying that he was sort of disappointed with the performance against Barrow. So, look, Barrow are no pushover. But I am going to go a 1-0 MK Dons win for that one. On to Bromley versus Barnet then. Barnet, obviously the newly promoted side, one of the newly promoted sides from the National League. And I think their fans are sort of thinking that they could potentially go again. And there's a lot of motion there, isn't there, when you come up from the National League? But we found out the hard way, didn't we? As Notts fans, that it's not that simple. Bromley, I like the way they set up. I like the manager. They're always a tough side, very, very tough side to beat. Very, very strict with the way that they play, very defensive, and they don't allow you, too much time on the ball. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Bromley win on that one. Moving on to Cheltenham versus Chesterfield. I've sort of already mentioned Chesterfield a little bit, but I think that they've had a good summer. They've added some really, really, good quality players, with lots of experience in the league. So I would fancy them, to be honest with you, this weekend. They win 1-0 last weekend. I don't think they played the best, but obviously they're still grinding out that result. I'm gonna go for a 3-1 Chesterfield. I'm gonna go for a bigger scoreline in this game. I think Cheltenham obviously losing their first game to Cambridge United. I can just see Chesterfield having a good season. Right then, Crawley versus Newport. Obviously, I've got a decent insight into Newport because it's the first team that we played against. First half, we were all over them, and they struggled to get into the game. Second half, they sort of wheeled away in a little bit, and they had a little bit of goal threat. And obviously, Crawley losing their first game against Grimsby 3-0. Now, I don't think Grimsby are going to be a side that are going to be mid-table. I think Grimsby are going to be up there this season. I think they could potentially even make top 3. So it's obviously not the perfect start, is it? But it's nothing to sort of get too worried about if you are a Crawley fan, I don't think. In saying that, they are sort of a newly relegated side, aren't they? So it could be, you don't want to be getting back-to-back relegations, do we? But I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in that one. Crewe versus Accrington Stanley then. Accrington struggled a lot last season, as we'll sort of know. I think they're probably going to struggle again this season as well. Crewe off to a blinder, beating Salford 3-1, who, as we was discussing last night in the Pavers perspective, they're heavy favourites to go up, Salford are. So Crewe, I think, are going to be up there as well this season. I think it's going to be a difficult game for Accrington. I can see that being a 2-0 win for Crewe. Fleetwood versus Bristol Rovers. Now then, look, Bristol struggled in their first game to beat Harrogate. We all know Harrogate are another one of those sides, similar to sort of Barrow, really. Defensively sound, are just going to frustrate you as much as possible. And yeah, they just are that side, aren't they? Bristol obviously losing their first game 1-0 to those. Fleetwood beating newly promoted Barnet 2-0 in their first game. I think it'd be a good game, this one, to be honest with you. I think both clubs are probably, they're going to be looking for promotion this season. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Bristol Rovers win. Moving on to Gillingham versus Warsaw now. I think this has got the potential to be a really good game, to be honest with you. Warsaw win their first game of the season. Obviously, they get a man sent off in the 21st minute, and I think they won the game. They win 2-1. They won the game in the 91st or 92nd minute. So they've got some good character in that squad to sort of, you know, keep going for that long with 10 men and then go on to win the game. I'm gonna go for a 1-0 Warsaw. I think they'll nick it late on again. Harrogate versus Grimsby. I've sort of said a little piece on Grimsby already. I think they're going to be one of the teams to beat this season. They're going to be a tough side to beat, and I think they're going to be up there at the end of the season. Harrogate again for me, no pushover. So it's going to be one of those games of frustration, I think. But I can see a couple of goals in this one. I can see a few goals, I think. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Grimsby to beat Harrogate 2-1. Oldham versus Colchester. Colchester had a really good end to last season. Really good end. I remember us going there at the back end of last season and we struggled. You know, they really frustrated us and they did what they had to do. So I think they are one of them teams that will see some success this season. And I can see them being in and around the playoffs. Oldham, obviously newly promoted. I'm going to go for a 1-1 in that game. And last but no means least, Swindon versus Cambridge United. I think this could be a fairly open game, to be honest with you. Swindon, the side that fell short to 10-man Warsaw, losing the game late on. I just think Cambridge might just have that little bit too much for Swindon. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Cambridge United over Swindon. Thank you for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed the video or you want to give your predictions, please drop them in the comments. Like the video, and if you don't already, please subscribe to the channel as we are going for that 5,000 mark this season.